Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, Lee Anderson, is back in the studio with me now, and it's a perfect day to have him with his enemies over at the failing lefty rag The Guardian, deciding that this case of self-flagellation and promise of a pitiful £10 million over 10 years because of the slave trade links of its founder, John Edward Taylor, is the most important news story in the entire world. Look at this. Look at this. The front page of The Guardian today, and there it is. Who cares about anything else going on in the world? They want to talk about themselves. And this is, of course, because the Scott Trust, which owns The Guardian, knows that they are opening the reparation floodgates. Less than 24 hours after the news broke, our wannabe globalist overlords at the UN are already demanding the same sort of restorative justice be expanded across the nation, with Professor Vereen Shepherd and Dominique Day both calling on Britons to lobby the government and even the royal family to begin, quote, rigorous self-investigation and pay reparations. So it's all grimly predictable. I'm delighted to welcome Westminster's toughest talking MP, Lee Anderson, back into the studio. I mean, Lee, this is fascinating on so many levels, right? Because firstly, this is not the biggest story in the world, you folks at The Guardian. It's very arrogant for you to think so. Secondly, you're giving £10 million over 10 years. That's nothing. It's not going to change a thing. And you're doing it for political reasons, aren't you? They want the reparation floodgates to open.
That is more namby-pamby virtue signalling from The Guardian again. Please move that away from me, because it's upsetting me at the moment. What happened last time?
I will dispose of The Guardian. Yes, in your important new role, Lee, you can't rip up The Guardian anymore.
But what
you're
I will
far
say,
too professional for that.
I am sick to death of these namby-pambys apologising for our history. Are they going to start apologising for us sending children up chimneys, children down coal mines, women down coal mines? We did some pretty nasty stuff in our own country and around the world, but, you know, I always say, Dan, that our history should be a mirror for us to look at. We are a great country. How about The Guardian, for once, printing some positive stuff about this country? This country, our great country, has been a gift to the world. We've given it railways, we've given it technology, we've given it science, we've given it medicines. How about saying we're a great country for once? They need to shut up.
Lee, I put it to you that The Guardian actually hates everything about Britain.
Well, they hate me, they hate you, they hate this place, and they, you know, like you say, Dan, they hate our country. They're almost ashamed of our history, our heritage, our culture. Like I say, why can't we be positive about our great country? You know, as you said earlier, you know, there's people dying to get to this country, risking their lives over the channel in the dinghies to get here. You know, we are a great country. This country is a gift to the world.
Exactly, and you can be proud of our history, like I am proud of the British Empire. You can also acknowledge not everything was great, but none of us have been directly impacted by the slave trade. And also, why did they never remind everyone that we were the first in the world to abolish the slave trade?
Indeed, and listen, Dan, I've got friends from India. You know, they grew up in India, loving this country, loving everything about Great Britain. And what do they do when they get to a certain age? They move here. They try and get their family here. They want to set up a business here, have a life here, have their children here. We are a great country. We colonise these countries, yet in these countries they want to come and live here. That answers your question.
Indeed, and I feel very similar way about New Zealand, where I was born, of course.
Never been.
It was a great country because of the fact that it became part of the British Empire. Now, look, from The Guardian to the BBC, I couldn't believe this week. I know, I'm triggering you.
Yeah.
I'm triggering you with all of this trauma. But look, I wanted to show you this because it's Andrew Marr, right, who was, of course, up until the end of 2021, the biggest political presenter of the BBC, the person who had to interview Boris all the time, and we always thought he came to it with an agenda. Well, now he has revealed his agenda to the New Statesman. Look at this.
As somebody who wants a Labour victory at the next election, is that I'm alarmed that perhaps Labour is underestimating Rishi Sunak, and I think the Prime Minister is doing far better.
So, Lee, that was the bloke that we were meant to trust at all of the critical points like Brexit, the Red Wall, and he's now openly admitting that he wants a Labour government. I mean, the BBC is crooked, isn't it?
It is. I mean, he's only telling us, Dan, what we already know. We know the BBC is completely biased. We know, like The Guardian, it hates our country. It's always apologising. Every time he switches it on, I don't switch it on, by the way. But, you know, they're always apologising for our history, our culture, just like The Guardian. And this Andrew Marr clip, it's actually quite disgusting. You know, actually, this is a taxpayer-funded organisation, supposed to be unbiased, supposed to be impartial, supposed to give us the correct news, you know, the correct reporting on politics. And what do we find out now? That all along, a wolf in sheep's clothing is on our screens pushing his own political agenda. It's absolutely disgusting.
Plus, they haven't done anything to deal with Gary Lineker after the disgusting comparison that he made to your party, which is actually, by the way, doing the humane thing by trying to stop the boats, because if you don't stop the boats, you're empowering people smugglers and disgusting criminal gangs. And he compares that to Nazi Germany. I mean, and he's still in a job.
Well, it's another case, Dan, of sweeping stuff under the carpet. It's a cover-up. We know it's a cover-up. Look, I stopped paying my BBC licence many, many years ago. Stood up in that place in Parliament to say, they won't get another penny off me. They're letting the British public down. They're constantly attacking us as a party, as a government. That, like I say, they hate our history and our culture. And, you know, people don't take it as seriously as they used to. It's supposed to be an impartial, taxpayer-funded organisation that covers, you know, all of us, all our opinions, but it doesn't. It's quite clearly biased, and Andrew Marr proves it.
Now, look, on the show yesterday, I said, will the real Keir Starmer please stand up? So let me show you this, because what are we meant to think about whether he is an enemy of Jeremy Corbyn or his best mate who he wanted to be Prime Minister? Watch this.
I want to pay tribute to Jeremy Corbyn, who led our party through some really difficult times, who energised our movement, and who's a friend as well as a colleague.
There you are, shaking hands, looking like good pals. Were you pals? Sure. Have you lost him as a friend? Because he said, no, he never considered you a friend. A friend is someone who you hang out with, who comes round for tea.
Well, we were never friends in that sense.
You were never friends?
No.
And does it...
So how can we trust a word that this bloke says?
Well, you can't. I mean, what a slippery so-and-so he is there. I mean, it just proves that he spent, you know, a few years campaigning to make Jeremy the Prime Minister, stood on the same platform, was in the shadow cabinet, telling everybody what a great person he was. All of a sudden, he's the leader now of the Labour Party, and what's he done? He's pulled that big dagger out and stuck it right in between his shoulder blades. What a despicable wolf in sheep's clothing type of character he is.
Yeah, and it's quite worrying, isn't it, to have a potential future Prime Minister of this country who actually is a moral vacuum. I feel like he will say anything to get elected. There's actually no sense of values that he lives by. And I think it's so important that our politicians have a set of values.
Well, this is the one thing, Dan, we keep hearing over and over again, out on the street in Ashfield, in Parliament, wherever we go, is that this man, he will say and do anything to take control of this country. You know, the people of this country should be very, very wary of Starmer. I mean, Corbyn's supposed to be his friend, his comrade, and he's doing this. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
It is. It's very worrying. Now, look, Lee, I was told that you've had another run-in today with that weird loser, the anti-Brexit campaigner, Steve Bray. Let's have a watch.
Well, not 100 grand a year like you, Mr. Anderson. I hope you're going to give some of that to the food banks in Ashfield.
I've got a 3-point plan for you.
Have you?
Get
Go
the
on
job.
then. Oh,
Get
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Get the line.
Are you going to give any of that 100,000 to charity?
Yes, 45 grand's going in income tax. It keeps funding.
Oh, right, yeah.
Sorry. I wish he'd take you up on that plan, you know. Well, it would be better for Britain if he did.
I mean, he's a bit of a freak show. I mean, he's a tourist attraction. He's there every single Wednesday with his little crowd of, I think, the unemployed people. They're obviously not contributing towards society. He's the public nuisance #1 in London. I don't know why he dresses like that. I don't know why he walks up and down making those silly noises, singing silly songs. But, you know, every time he sees me, he makes a beeline for me. But you know what? People like me and you, Dan, decent, law-abiding citizens going to work, paying our taxes, and that's the result.
Yeah. Get a haircut and get a real job,
Yeah,
Steve
indeed.
Bray, as the old song goes.